Welcome, magical ones, to the mysterious feminine archetypes of the witch, where I'm showing up to explore how these kind of various initiations have been missed through the feminine life cycle. And yeah, often there has been this kind of this lack of conscious initiation into the feminine in many of my women, if not all of them actually. so yeah, there's and it's kind of this part of our culture that often the kind of feminine mystery is not really valued in comparison to the kind of more masculine tendencies towards logic and kind of lineality that are seen in our culture. So yes, often these kind of various phases of initiation that we enter into as women throughout the blood mysteries especially are often lost innocently. And so yeah, this is something that our ancestors would have traditionally celebrated and initiated as we move through the feminine life cycle. So that is what my invitation is for you all as we journey through. We've been journeying through the feminine life cycle through maiden, lover, mother and wise woman so far, and today, hence the crown, we are exploring the queen. And the queen is such a hugely important part of our path here at Team Secret Witch. Our kind of journey, really, the 7 points of our path here at Team Secret Witch are really kind of leading us into the invocation of our witch queen. So the queen is like central to the work we do here. And especially given that the witch is all about power, so she kind of, there's this synergy between the witch and the queen, who is also about claiming her power, claiming her place on the throne. So I'm going to be diving into the witch queen today. And yeah, the queen is also the part of you, or part that many of my women kind of often struggle with, because there's this kind of, in the queen, I've been exploring so far the feminine archetypes in the order that they kind of flow through, but the queen kind of sits with many of these different archetypes, so she's kind of all weaved throughout all of them. So often my women will struggle because the queen kind of represents that adult in us, and so she can often be found in the archetypes that we've already explored so far. So this can be she can be found in the lover, she can be found in the mother, she can be found in the wise woman. Often there's that kind of initiation point at maidenhood as well into the queen. There's that kind of sense of the queen being the adult in the house. She's the one that we kind of call in on this path to help us make conscious, powerful choices. She's the one that we call in this path in order to bring love to the wounded inner child, those kind of parts of us that have been innocently creating life from the kind of wounded maiden, because she's never consciously moved into that queen. So yeah, the queen is all about power, and specifically power from love. So this is our kind of conscious adult within us. And often she can be kind of missed as we move from maiden. Often if we're not initiated past maiden, she can be completely lost entirely, and that was certainly the case for my own journey, which is the queen is an archetype I've been working with for a long time now, and I've been really deepening into her energetic. She's a powerful one. So she is all about power from love. And this is something that the Secret Witch can really struggle with, because the way that the Secret Witch has known power has typically been in quite a masculine way. If you say the word power to a Secret Witch, she'll often be like, oh no, there's that kind of sense of power just not being welcome, and often that's how they feel about their own power. And it can be quite surprising to many of my women that power can be harnessed from the feminine, from love, so there's a lot of juicy liberation in the queen archetype. And this makes sense that the secret witch struggles with this, because again, if we think back to the witch wound, the kind of times where women were burned for being in their power, they learned that it just wasn't safe to be in their power, that they wouldn't be approved of, that it wasn't safe. They need to be more in control. And yeah, really, that kind of the fact that they were being burned for being in their power meant that they had to do the opposite. They had to stay in their child. They couldn't rise into their adulthood because they were going to be burned at the stake. So it makes complete sense when this is kind of built into our DNA. It's kind of within our cells, this story that power isn't safe. Yeah, it makes perfect sense as to why the secret witch often gets stuck in childhood rather than kind of, yeah, elevating into her power, into her queen. And yet, this is totally available for all of my women. This is, yeah, usually why they're even here, is to rise into their witch queen. And some of the ways that this shows up when they haven't yet kind of consciously initiated their witch queen is in the way that they can often fear their own power. They fear that their power will be really destructive. There's this kind of often a distraction away from being in their power. They'll create all sorts of drama or chaos or whatever, and I speak from experience on this, to kind of distract them away from being in their power for good. And what they don't realise when they're ironically doing that is that they are also creating the drama and the chaos. So it's quite revelatory when they begin to initiate their queen and see that yes, they've been using their power for chaos and destruction rather than for love. So this is the way of the feminine, is this kind of harnessing of the queenly power with grace and love. And yeah, often there's this sense of, who do I need to be? This can be the deep fear of the witch. Who do I need to be in order to harness that power of the queen? So often the way that this will present, this will manifest in the witch, and this is certainly true of my own experience, is there will be this kind of either or, and we talk about polarity a lot. There's this kind of polarity of either being completely tyrant, which certainly was my own experience, that kind of sense of, you will do this and you will do it my way. There's this, or there's because the kind of yeah, that's definitely the way that I was. That kind of, I called her my tyrant or lachesis shadow. And then the opposite end of that scale, which is where I can also have spent time sometimes, is in that kind of more helpless, like, I'm not a queen, I can't do anything, like I just can't do this kind of, I don't have the power, that sense of helplessness. And this, the queen, those who are here to kind of invoke the witch queen, often will spend time kind of bouncing between the two, either being completely tyrant, where they've just got kind of so helpless, so overwhelmed that they're kind of like, I've had enough of being helpless, I'm just going to swing to the opposite end and demand that everybody does what I want them to do. There's the kind of forceful kind of tyrant energy that is kind of a sign that you're here to alchemize your queen. So yeah, often the secret witch will kind of either swing between the two or operate entirely in one end of the polarity. So it could be that kind of sense of deep helplessness, and you're just there. It could be that. It could be that you are just kind of in that helpless, not hopeless, just to make the distinction, because hope is a requirement of this path, but that kind of helpless sense of shadow, where there's this sense of, I'm not powerful at all, often indicates that actually you are. Because if you are missing it, and I said this to a client the other day, it's something that's been said to me, if something is missing, it's because it was there in the first place. So if you're feeling helpless, it's because you are here to be a witch queen. You have an immense amount of power, and it's just about you learning to consciously harness that. So yes, there is possibility. And the queen in her beautiful, fullest expression is really that kind of sense of majesty. Majesty is one of the kind of parts of the root here in Invoke Your Witch Queen. It's that kind of real kind of sense of power that is on offer from the queen archetype, from invoking her power. And she's the power that really kind of holds a vision, knows what her vision is, begins to see her vision, gets real clarity on it, and then holds that vision and is able to create it. She is almighty powerful. She claims her power. She sits on her throne. She takes up space. She is fully expressed as her power, living out her vision. And yeah, she sits on her throne, creating all of her vision, all of her magic, from complete love. And this is where this is quite revelatory for my women, because often, as I said, there's this kind of sense of power being quite a masculine thing, and yet what we are inviting you into in this kind of feminine invocation of the Queen is that kind of courageous vulnerability, that softening, that opening, that relaxing, and creating from a vision, creating in a magical way, creating from the feminine. And that is what the Queen is all about. The Queen is kind of full of grace. She's loving, she's feminine, she's powerful, she is creative, she is her full expression. And yet again, often another way that this can show up is that kind of sense of rebellion. Often a queen in shadow can be that kind of rebel vibe of like, well, sod you. I'm often my women will come, and I've mentioned this about recently in that kind of post about having done a lot of work with the goddess before, and I intentionally didn't call Invoke Your Feminine Mystery anything to do with goddess. There's a post that I wrote about that, because the goddess is like the ultimate kind of thing to embody. It's like the pinnacle, you know, we have to work our way up there. If we call in the goddess, we're going to call in, as a witch especially, almighty amounts of material for our liberation. And she's like the ultimate thing to embody. My own soul guide, who to me feels like the most embodied goddess I know, even she does not use the word goddess in terms of her embodiment, because yeah, I'm kind of going off on a tangent now, but there's kind of like we need to embody who we are at a kind of very grounded level. And the goddess can often kind of, it's a lifetime's work ultimately. The goddess is the work of a lifetime. So Queen can often show up in this kind of rebellious vibe, and the reason I mention the goddess and the rebellious vibe here is often women have done a lot of work with feminine embodiment before, can come to this path and feel like, well, I've already done that, I've already embodied the goddess. And there's usually when they have, there's often this kind of sod you, like I'm riding a dragon, and I've there's this kind of rebellious vibe that comes from a place of fear rather than love. And so that is again another way that the call to invoking your queen, invoking your witch queen, can show up, is that kind of sense of, I already have done this and I'm like, sod you, like rebelling against the masculine in a not very feminine way. It's just like another shadowy version of embodying the masculine. so yeah, there's a deeper post on that in the Facebook group if you want to read that. I think it's called Goddess or Truth, and I think it's also on the blog. So yeah, there's that kind of rebel versus also good girl, that kind of good girl, kind of maiden energetic of like really waiting to be rescued by the masculine, that kind of sense of not having risen yet into adulthood. And the queen very much for me is that archetypal adult who is just here to hold all those innocent kind of inner child parts of you that want to kick off, that want to say, no, I'm not ready for this, or yeah, I'm going to rebel, or all of these pieces of you that kind of learnt as a child that it wasn't safe to be in your power. The queen is here to be in her majesty and say, come here. I am going to love you until you are safe, until you feel safe to rise into your adulthood, to take responsibility, to own, to claim your power. That is who the queen is. She's this soft, loving, graceful, beautiful adult holder of all of your power. So yes, she's there creating her queendom in her full expression, and she's kind of also got this beautiful polarity of perhaps having deep connection with her king. This is something again that I've really risen into. There's a beautiful podcast by Alison Armstrong on the Secret Witch Show, which talks about the Queen's Code, which is Alison's book, one of the most powerful books, all about the Queen energetic. So if you are feeling called to learn more, then that's a great place to start. It's actually a book all about men and women, so it's a great book for kind of the typical feminine embodiment that we're kind of guiding women into on this path. So yeah, if you are wanting a resource, then check that out. It's amazing. But without the Queen, ultimately there is no power from love. There may be power, as I said, in that kind of tyrant or rebel vibe, but there's no power from love. And this is the beauty of embodying the queenly feminine aspect of the witch. And this is, of course, something that we are going to be diving into as part of Invoke Your Feminine Mystery, which is coming up on the 22nd of June. We have 2 spaces left to be claimed on that. If you are feeling the call, do book an alchemy call sooner rather than later. I'm currently in conversation with 4 women for the remaining 2 spaces. So if you are feeling called by the Queen, who kind of, as I said, trickles through all of the adult feminine archetypes, then do reach out and we can book some time to explore whether this may be the next aligned step for you. And I'm more than happy to explore, regardless of whether that is indeed something with me or whether there's another aligned step that I can provide to you. That may not be with me. It may be, like I say, a book like the one with Alison Armstrong. So yeah, if you're feeling the call and you're just not sure, just explore. And also there is our Feminine Mystery event. How to know if you are ready for the healing remedy, the feminine, is coming up on Wednesday. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. If you are feeling called, do join us there as well. We can explore together there. The inquiry, I just want to leave you with some inquiry for the Queen. Often the secret witch will feel ultimate resistance to the Queen, because ultimately she's the one who is calling you into your power. So yes, the deep inquiry there is, where are you avoiding being in your queenly power from love? And yeah, which part of your child really is resisting, like, no, I don't want to grow up, I don't want to be in my queenly power, I just want to stay. It's like, which parts of you are kicking off at the idea of claiming your power from love? And that usually is seen by all the ways that you have resistance or fear or anger or any kind of emotion that is coming up for you as I've been talking. So yeah, that is your inquiry. I'm going to leave it there, and yeah, just leave you with all of the love of my own Alchemilla Queen Witch. So yeah, all my love.